Okay, so hello everyone. Um, my name is Dr. Fabiola Aparicio-Ting. I am the Associate Dean for Undergraduate Health and Science Education at the Cummings School of Medicine, also the Director for the Bachelor's of Health Sciences program. I'm also joined by our program coordinator, Jennifer Logan, who you will see on screen. And we're going to talk to you, give you a little information today about the Bachelor's of Health Science Honors Program, which really is a research-intensive program with the goal of creating the future researchers, future research leaders. So I'm going to start with a territorial acknowledgement. The University of Calgary is located in the heart of Southern Alberta and both acknowledges and pays tribute to the traditional territories of the peoples of Treaty 7, which include the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprised of the Siksika, Kainai, and Kainai First Nations, and Tsuut'ina First Nation, and the Stoney Nakoda, including Chiniki, Bearspaw, Goodstoney First Nations. The city of Calgary is also home to the Métis Nation within Alberta, Nose Hill Métis District, Métis District 5, and Elbow Métis District 6. So we're actually very privileged to be able to live, learn, thrive, and really enjoy all that this beautiful land has to offer. And the picture you actually see here is a cliff that oversees the signing of Treaty 7. So it's a very important historical document, and is actually a site where we take some of our senior students because we are very committed to our efforts towards truth and reconciliation in our program. Okay, so as I mentioned, one of our aspirations is really to create the leaders of the future in health research. So we are an inquiry-based, interdisciplinary, and research-intensive program that offers an interesting way to learn about health, but to also build a number of other foundational skills that you can take beyond health and science research. You will be familiar that we have, hopefully, 3 majors: the bioinformatics major, the biomedical sciences major, and the health and society major. So I'm going to talk to you about each of these, just give you a brief overview of each of these different majors. So we'll start with health and society. The health and society major is actually focused on population and public health principles, health equity and social justice, and meeting some of those competencies around public health practices established by the Public Health Agency of Canada, so that's PHAC. Within health and society, students get to explore how to actually keep populations healthy. So understanding disease is really important, but where we focus is actually thinking about how do we keep people healthy and avoid disease altogether. And in so doing, how do we improve the quality of things like our healthcare system, and our other systems like education, our social welfare systems, and all of our economic and global systems. Students can explore a wide range of health issues, but the focus really is on thinking about those factors that work beyond the individual. It's what we call the social determinants of health, to determine health equity and the health of a population. What's unique within the health and society major is that students get to declare a social science concentration. So this means an opportunity to take courses that are specifically within these various social sciences listed here. So we have anthropology, political science, economics, psychology, geography, sociology, and community disability and rehabilitation studies. So in addition to all of the medical sciences courses that they take through our program, health and society students explore these various concentrations and then bring that learning back and apply it to health. The biomedical sciences program looks at health from a more cellular, molecular, and physiological level. So really interested in those foundations of the biomedical science and laboratory research, and what those methods are. What are the tools that are used, and what kind of questions do those researchers ask? So again, this is another major where students can explore a breadth of health science research including all of the topics that you see here and many, many more. This is just a small sampling. But really looking at disease and health from a more of a cellular, molecular, and physiological perspective. So one of the big draws of our program here is we have a beautiful teaching lab, and we have smaller classes that allow for very interactive labs. And we're able to incorporate some of those, the latest in developments and technologies, and particularly around teaching those research skills, because we are a research intensive program. The third major in our program is our bioinformatics major. So bioinformatics is really the intersection of biology and the understanding of human health from that biological perspective, including big data, and how that intersects with computer science as a discipline. So because of this intersection between two diverse disciplines, our courses are really practical and application-based. So you get hands-on experience right away. What you see on the slide is a photo of our one of our our high-performance cluster computers, and that allows students to do that kind of hands-on analysis of large data. And so students in the bioinformatics major can ask and really explore research that is both, highly computational. So really interested in things like AI and its application to health, machine learning algorithms, creating pipelines for things like data analysis, and even imaging analysis, all the way to how do we actually deal with large population level data, and creating the algorithms and pipelines that help population and public health researchers also understand the health and population. So it has a very broad applicability, but really focused on those computational skills applied to biology. Yep, sorry. I've just listed here what we call our program learning outcomes. So these are the things that we want our graduates to achieve when they're leaving our program, to be proficient in these areas. And you'll notice that some of these are very research specific. So there's specific research skills. We have academic writing, scholarly and disciplinary literacy, and then the foundational knowledge and the application of that knowledge that is specific to the three different majors. But we also have, and very key and important to how we teach in our program, are these broader skills that are really the transferable skills. So critical thinking, collaboration, being able to present in ways that various different audiences can understand, and being able to write, again, for different audiences, all the way from an academic audience to a more lay audience. So we have a mix of kind of technical skills, research and disciplinary skills, and transferable skills, so that we can help students kind of become very well-rounded. So by the time they leave our program, they have actually opened doors for themselves, rather than creating a pipeline to a specific kind of projection after the program. I mentioned this quite early on when I gave that overview vision of what our program is, and that is that it's a very collaborative and inquiry-based program. So these are kind of big educational words, but really what it means is that students work very closely with each other, because it mimics the way that we as scientists are exploring and answering questions about our most contemporary health problems in populations. So we have to learn how to work across disciplines. We have to learn how to work with different people with different working styles, and also learn how to manage things like time and projects where there are lots of moving pieces. So this is a really important part of our program. And from day one, students interact in a way through group work, largely through interdisciplinary groups, meaning that you will be working with students from the different majors all together in one group to come up with solutions to problems that students actually identify. So this is the inquiry-based component. It's a way for us to start fostering that that curiosity, and that real interest in pursuing research and asking those questions about health. So we start that from day one. So really our courses that we deliver through our program, what we call our core inquiry courses, are focused on students asking questions. So we deliver some content, but the focus isn't on an instructor just kind of dumping a bunch of information, you memorizing it, and then putting down on paper. It's about learning how to think, learning how to ask questions, and then apply all the things you know to answering those questions and coming up with solutions. So it's very interactive, it's quite hands-on, and it does require quite a bit of engagement, both through presentations, group work, but also through academic writing. And what the capstone experience in our program for all three majors is our honors thesis. And so you'll see the bottom picture on the slide. We've got three of our former graduates celebrating the day that they have gone through their oral exam for their honors thesis. So they're you can see how happy and smiley they are, and it is a journey. They started in year one not knowing very much about research, but we support students through that entire journey and teach them all the necessary research, communication, collaboration, and other transferable skills, critical thinking, communication, that they need to be successful in their honors thesis. And so at the time you do your honors thesis, you're actually asking your own independent research question supervised by a faculty member who has a research program and knows how to supervise undergraduate students, but it is very much an independent project. And it is one of the, we call it a capstone experience because it is, I think, one of the central experiences that our students benefit from. As I mentioned, we are research intensive. So the honors thesis is a research intensive experience, but there are other opportunities for engaging with undergraduate research, both in our curriculum and beyond our curriculum. So within our curriculum, we have those inquiry-based courses where all of the three majors work together. We also have the availability of independent study courses. So these are courses where you are a student of one in a course who is supervised by a faculty member that the student identifies, and the student and the faculty member come up with a project, and the project is actually the course. So it's a really great way to get some research experience, build some skills, get some course credit, and further your degree requirements. So independent study courses are something that our students really enjoy doing. And then, of course, I've mentioned the honors thesis already. We also have some extracurricular research opportunities. So broadly, the University of Calgary offers a suite of summer studentships. So at the University of Calgary, there is a commitment to undergraduate research opportunities. And so there's funding opportunities to do summer research where you get paid. Now, because we are a research intensive program, we have a smaller suite of summer studentships that are protected only for bachelors of health sciences students. So in addition to the bigger pot, we also have these small dedicated awards. And it is another really interesting way to explore your various health research interests, because you can really work with any faculty member at the university. Most students work with faculty over at the Cummings School of Medicine, doing a variety of research that stems all the way from the very molecular or even genetic to working with community-based researchers who are, working outside of the, ivory tower walls and working in community, talking with community members, understanding what health looks like out in the population. We also offer through our global health office at the Cummings School of Medicine, what we call global health field courses. So currently we're offering a course that runs in Uganda. And so an example of this would be the Uganda course, where students go out to and spend about a month with our partners in Mbarara, Uganda, doing a community-based health promotion program. So they learn about social determinants of health and how it applies in that particular context. And they work with Ugandan students in partnership with community to come up with different health promotion activities. So lots of opportunities to get involved in research extracurricular extracurricularly, but if that's not possible, we have it embedded right into our curriculum. I'm just having trouble with my slide here. Oh, there we go. So really what makes us unique from other programs? So we get this question a lot, like, how is this different from a different degree of another university? So the interdisciplinary nature of how we've designed our inquiry courses is quite unique. This is an exceptional opportunity for gaining those skills that are very workforce based. So learning how to work with others, talking, disciplinary languages that can be quite tricky, and making them simple so that you can work across different disciplines. And that is what current health research looks like, is big team research working across disciplines. So we definitely apply that within our program, which is quite a unique focus. We offer we're a smaller program. So this is by design, because we need to be able to offer sufficient research placements for our more senior students. So we keep our program small. So, but what this allows us to do is to provide one of the best student to advisor ratios across campus. So you have ready access to Jennifer Logan, who is our advisor for things like academic advising, connections to supports, and resources across campus. We also have some pretty important equipment and teaching labs and a computer lab, which are specifically for our coursework. So you get to work at the Foothills campus, which is the Health Science Center campus, a little ways away from the main campus, but a short 10-minute bus ride. And we have all of the facilities that we need here kept up to date as much as possible. We offer scholarship support, which you will have seen on the website. I've already mentioned the summer research funding, but I think one of the biggest perks is having those small class sizes. Those small class sizes allow you to interact closely with other peers. So one of our goals is to create a community across our students to work collaboratively with each other, help support each other through the journey of an undergraduate program. But it also allows students to interact with their instructors pretty directly. And we have some pretty impressive award-winning faculty who teach in our program. And so being able to interact with them, to learn directly from them one-on-one, it can be quite a unique experience, and really is not often possible in larger programs, but we are very fortunate to have this opportunity open to our students. So really, like, the main message here is, if you're curious, if you are creative, if you like to work with others and are really interested in asking questions about health, then this is probably the program for you. There is some academic and intellectual risk-taking, which means you have to be willing to ask questions that you do not know the answer to, but you work on getting to that solution. There's a lot of learning that happens in that way through our program, and really enriches the quality of our graduates. We have, outside of our program, some enrichment opportunities, specifically around mentorship. We offer a buddy program where our junior students, who are incoming first years, get paired up with a senior BHSU student, and they get paired up as buddies, which means you get a little bit of extra support from a student who's already been through that first year experience, and can offer advice on where to go get the best cup of coffee late when you're studying late. What are the really good study spots across campus? How do you get back and forth between main campus and the Foothills campus easily? And all of those kind of questions. So you get some student support that way. We have some community engagement activities as well, and some more formalized mentorship opportunities through our mentorship program with faculty. So first and second year students can be an opt into this program and be paired up with a faculty member who can provide some mentorship around career planning and thinking about what health research looks like. beyond, what you see in the first year classroom, for example. And then for our senior students, we offer a mentorship program between those senior students and our alumni. So as we prepare those students for thinking about what happens after the program, what are all the various possibilities beyond BHSC once they graduate. Oops, sorry. There we go. I'd like to point out that the BHSC program is very supportive of athletes. So we actually have a number of athletes. And I've really just got 5 listed here. I know there's a few more that it just didn't get them on the slide this time around. But we have athletes across the different majors, across the different years. Again, because we're a smaller program, we can help our student athletes juggle kind of the combination of coursework, usually a reduced course load, and their competitive endeavors. So, and this might vary on the level of competitiveness in the sport that the student is involved in, but it is definitely possible. We've had very successful graduates from our program who are also both dyno and other competitive athletes. So you don't just have to be a dyno. Sometimes we have students who are competitive outside of that varsity sphere. We support all of our athletes equally, and they really do enrich our student body for sure. Common question we get is, what do I do with a BHSC? So what happens after? So we have, again, this is a small program. We are able, and because of the relationships we build with students, we're able to track some of our alumni. Alumni often come back and let us know what they're doing and how they're doing. So we know that about a third of our program, or I'd say about 20, a quarter to a third of our program will go to medical school post-graduation. So kind of I think what people usually think of as a progression after a health sciences degree. But I want to point out that many of our students go on to do many other things beyond just medical school. So many of them go on to the workforce, which includes a lot of several entrepreneurial endeavors. Others will go on to other professional programs like law, veterinary medicine, sometimes dentistry, physiotherapy, and many other professional programs that are available. And because we're a research intensive program, it's very natural for our students to then pursue graduate school, where they might do a master's or a PhD in an area where we've sparked some curiosity in their undergraduate degree. Okay, so we'll get down to applying to the program. So it's really important to know that there are 2 components that are considered in our admission decisions. So one is your average coming in. So if you're coming in from high school, it's your high school average. We have a minimum average at which your application will be considered for review. So that is 87%. And the courses are listed there. Those required courses that make up that average are listed there. The second piece to our admission process is the supplementary application. So students who complete the University of Calgary application form will then and list our program as a first choice. So this is quite important. We will only look at applicants who have indicated that we are their first choice program because we just get too many applicants. So we get those applications, and then you get a link to a supplementary application. So this is 4 questions that are really about getting to know you as a person and have kind of 2 purposes. 1, to know if you are a really good fit for our program, but 2, to understand if our program is a good fit for you. So those questions are, I can tell you they're not knowledge-based, but they need to be something that's answered by you and you alone. So the use of AI or generative AI tools or any other kind of AI tools is absolutely not allowed. We want to get to know you as a person, not the AI or the chatbot that's available. It's also important that as you're filling out these questions and thinking and reflecting on your responses, that they really do reflect what you think and how you feel in response to those questions. There is no one right answer. So there isn't something specific that we are looking for. So think about just answering those questions authentically. And, you know, again, I can't stress enough that these should really be done by you. And it's best not to have, you know, someone else look at them or edit them or even tell you what to write, because that will actually create quite an important mismatch, which we want to avoid. We take the supplementary application and we assign it to 3 independent reviewers, and it receives an average score across those 3 independent reviewers. And decisions for admission are based on your supplementary application score and your entry average. Okay. So that's the overview I had prepared for today. I see there's a couple of questions that I can answer live, I think. And I will invite Jennifer Logan to also answer any of the questions that she feels are ready. She's ready to answer. So first question is, what is needed to apply for scholarships and what data do we need? So the University of Calgary offers a number of various entrance scholarships. So you'll want to go on the University of Calgary website and on the top search button to put in their entrance awards or entrance scholarships, and it will take you to the right webpage, and it will all be listed there. So what you need depends on the awards that you're eligible for. So that might depend on the program and your entrance average and some of your other experiences. So there is a very long list of available scholarships and bursaries on that website. So you'll want to kind of comb through those, see what you're eligible for, what you want to apply for, and it will give you instructions on what you need to do that. So there's a bit of a common application process, but then it's very specific to the different scholarships that you want to apply for. So there isn't one kind of set thing, one application and one set of information that you need. Okay, the second question I'm looking at is it recommended to do the SAP personal profile? If so, what advantages could I gain? Okay, so I think you're referring to the student access process profile. So that process is actually just for students who have faced significant circumstances and obstacles in their lives and are and that has somehow challenged their journey, their academic journey. So there is no advantage to be gained because if you fill that out and you don't qualify, that doesn't get reviewed. So it really is for a very specific targeted students. Please read the information on the SAP website to see if you qualify through that process. But I will say that as at the BHSC program, we don't follow that specific process because we have our admission process that's a bit different. We don't just look at grades. So that works well if you're just looking at grades and admitting from top down. We look at both grades and the supplementary application. So that supplementary application tells us what we need to know about good fit for our program. Jennifer, do you have anything to add to that? Nope. Okay, great. Third question.
I will say if there is additional information that you wish us to know when considering your application for an admission decision, you do have a portion on the supplementary application, question number 5, where you can tell us anything else you want us to know about. And that 5th question is not viewed by the reviewers. It's just information that's made known to the program and the people making the admission decisions.
Yeah, thank you. That's important to note. The third question is about rounds of admission. So the first round start rolling around December, January. Would it be early December or later in the month? Do we know prior to winter break? So I cannot give you a definitive time because the supplementary application process requires that we have 3 reviewers per application. So it really depends on the number of applications that we're reviewing in that round. We get a large number of applications in our program. So you can imagine the time it takes for 3 independent reviewers to do that, to then average those scores and get that all kind of together, all of the admission information together to make decisions. So I'm afraid that I can't be any more definitive than late December, early January. Okay, what is the weighting of the average and the weighting of the supplementary application? It is about 50-50. So it's not, we don't follow, there isn't an algorithm. We look at various factors, but you could have a 99% average and score very poorly on your supplementary application, and unfortunately will not get an offer. So that supplementary application is quite important because it is about your fit to the program and the program fit for you. So we do pay very close attention to that supplementary application score. Okay. Do graduates typically feel prepared for the MD program or other medical schools? Well, I'm not a graduate of the BHSC program, so I can't necessarily speak to how our graduates feel. I will say that our graduates who do go on to medical school do well, get matched, do the things they want to do. They go to a variety of medical schools, not just the University of Calgary. But I will point out that this is not a pre-med program. So our program is not intended to prepare students in any way specifically for a medical program. It is, as I already mentioned, a research intensive program to really instill that curiosity in health researchers and to build those critical thinking, communication, collaboration skills, and build that disciplinary knowledge so that students can pursue a variety of different options. So I'd say our graduates are equally successful through the various different programs that they pursue or employment that they pursue post-graduation. This is an interesting question. Are there classes that weed out students from the program? No. Our intention is never, one of the reasons we pay very close attention to our supplementary applications in our admissions process is because we intend to keep the students that we admit. And so and I would say at the University of Calgary in general, I'm not really sure that anyone purposely weeds out students. The first year is challenging to any high school student. It's not a gradual transition from high school. It's a pretty intense transition from high school learning into post-secondary learning. And students who have pursued this program because they have a genuine interest in research and inquiry-based learning tend to do very well in those classes. Students who are, less well prepared or have joined the program not really understanding that those are, you're going to have to actually think and apply. There isn't, in our particular courses, there isn't a lot of memorizing and what we call memorize and regurgitate. There isn't a lot of that. In fact, I don't even know that there's any of that. It's a lot of academic writing and group work. And so, if it wasn't a great fit for you, then that might be a tougher year. But we would never purposely weed out students. Like I said, our purpose is to support our students through their however much time they are with us journey, and make sure that all of our students can succeed. What is the deadline for the first supplementary application batch to be scored? Well, supplementary applications are open right now. So they open at the same time as, general University of Calgary applications are open. Generally speaking, we're probably about to go into review soon. It's always best to apply earlier rather than later because we are a small program and seats will fill up. But if you submit an application and a supplementary application and you don't get an offer within that first round, it doesn't mean that your application goes anywhere. It just kind of stays in the pool until the next round. So it might be that your grade 11 grades weren't, quite right, or quite met the requirements for that admission in December. So we'll wait to see what your transcripts look like after your first semester in high school. So there isn't, I wouldn't say there isn't a specific date, but I would definitely recommend that applying earlier is always better. Jennifer, anything to add on there?
No, as a matter of fact, if you leave your application to the March 1st deadline, essentially as we begin to fill seats, those left in the applicant pool are essentially competing for a shrinking, dwindling number of seats. So the advice that the university gives to apply early is very sound advice.
Oh, the next one, very important question. Do you have to have a background in research to be considered? No. In fact, we don't ask you about any of that kind of experience. We don't know what your background is in terms of research skills or not research skills coming into the program. The point of the program is to build those skills for you. So you're supported in building those research skills so that you can be, successful up until your honors thesis. I think the background that you need is to be curious, to be willing to ask questions that you don't know the answer to, and that there isn't a definitive, answer, check the box and be done. So that's what health research is, right? We ask very important questions about health and disease, and then try and figure out how we're going to answer that question, try to answer the question, which usually leads to more questions, right? So that curiosity piece is really important. I think the ability to be a critical thinker is going to, and to embrace growing in critical thinking is a key success factor in our program. And then the openness to working and collaborating with others, to developing those communication skills, to be able to present to different audiences. All of those are kind of characteristics that will make you successful in the program. So the openness, the wanting to build those skills, and working at those when you're in the program, that's what success looks like. How have the competitive average for the three majors varied historically? Is there a major that's always had a higher and one that has lower? So no, we don't actually use competitive averages because we don't know what those are until the end of the admission cycle, right? We don't know what the competitive average looks like until we're all done. So we don't conduct the admission process thinking like, you must have a higher average in one major versus the other. All three have the same requirements for admission. When your supplementary application is sent out to different reviewers don't actually know which major you've applied to. So there isn't an advantage to one major or an easier major to get into than another. I would say find the major that best fits your skill set, the things that you want to develop, the major that speaks to your interests and kind of the area of health research that you think you want to explore and grow in. And that's usually the best way to choose your major and ensure that you're going to be successful in the future. Jennifer, anything to add?
Another way to look at it is because the importance of the supplementary application is weighted equally with the admission average. Having a supplementary application does allow us to admit from a range of GPAs. So depending on what your supplementary application scores are, it allows us to balance the two when making an admission decision. So it actually works to the applicant's advantage. If they score very, very well on the supplementary application, that balances with maybe an admission GPA that's not perfect. So
definitely. I don't get that. High school students with an average of 85% considered. No. So our minimum average to be considered is 87%. And that's when we will send out the supplementary applications for review. Okay, I think I've answered that one already. If we don't have biology or chemistry lessons, can we still register? Nope. I can go back to the previous slide. Bio 30, chemistry 30 are requirements for admission into our program. In addition to English 30-1, math 30-1, so or the equivalents at, depending on where you are. And then there's an additional academic course. And you can see the list on our admissions website of what's eligible for that additional academic course. But yes, you need to have completed the equivalent of biology 30 and chemistry 30 in order to be eligible for an admission consideration into our program. How many Canadians permanent residents do you plan to admit? We don't have a ratio. We don't have a target. We admit roughly 115-ish students into our program every year. So it's whoever best meets those criteria in terms of having the required coursework, having, the average, the admission average that you're coming in with, and the supplementary score. So we're not trying to fill a particular number of bucket in any way, shape, or form. Okay, we've answered that question. The average range. We won't know what so I will reiterate that we don't know what the competitive average will be until the end of the process. So I think the important thing to focus on is, do you meet that minimum 87% in order to be considered for the admission process into our program? How many seats are reserved per stream, and are either of the streams more or less competitive than another? The streams, it depends on the year. They're all equally competitive because we do get quite a bit of application pressure for the limited number of seats that we have. We only offer, we offer fewer seats in health and society and bioinformatics because we have fewer faculty who can support that research later on in the program. So when we admit a student, we want to ensure that they're going to have those research opportunities that are so core to what we do. And so we happen to have more biomedical science researchers at the Cummings School of Medicine. So we have, a larger number of biomedical science majors, and we have one department that supports the health and society major, and a smaller part of a department that supports our bioinformatics researchers. So we admit based on that. And I hope that answers that question. Jennifer, anything to add there? No, perfect. You can study part-time. One of the challenges in our program is that we have some courses that are full year. So for example, in your first year, you will take inquiry. Our first inquiry course is called MDSC 203. Our second one is called MDSC 205. Now they're separate courses, but inquiry core runs across the whole year. In the second year, MDSC 308 runs the whole year. So you have to at least take those. You can do part-time study. There is a considerations on how long it might take you to complete the program in order to be eligible for the honors. So to complete the degree, so you must do it in 5 years. But you don't have to take 5 courses each semester necessarily. There's spring and summer, if that is an option for you to do some of our optional courses. We don't offer any of the medical science or health and society courses in the spring or summer. Okay. Does the biomedical science program cover typical bio courses on human anatomy and physiology? So you have to have the foundational knowledge in each of the majors in order to be able to ask good research questions within those areas. So there are our biomedical sciences majors do take first year biology, first year chemistry, organic chemistry, biochemistry as required courses for more senior level courses, which will be genetics, immunology, and then a number of other kind of areas that are more specific in health research. We do in our courses, though, run that research intensive thread, which means you're covering the content, but you're learning kind of like the kinds of questions that someone in that area might ask. So in immunology, you would be really learning about basic immunology, but also, how does the research in immunology work? What does it look like? What are some of the methods? So there's that added piece. Okay, how do the difference compare in terms of students do after graduate? Oh, that's an interesting question. As far as MD admissions, there's actually no, proportionally speaking, there's no difference across the majors. So we have run that data. We have students from all of the majors who want to apply to medical school, do so, and be fairly successful. Some of the differences are that health and society students often choose to pursue things like law, physiotherapy, other kinds of professional schools, and obviously the graduate programs that they choose to pursue are more in line with population and public health, whereas biomedical science students will choose graduate programs that are much more biomedical science oriented, for example. They all equally go into things like medicine and into the workforce in equal proportions. Pharmacy would be more biomedical science students. I think we've seen historically go in that direction, but just because of usually the draw there is the kind of foundational knowledge, right? That's acquired through that specific major. So I'd say that the majors are aligned with students' interests, and then you see that in how they pursue whatever they want to do after they graduate, is they tend to just like enhance that interest in a more specific area. Oh, that's a very interesting question. How important are extracurricular activities? And are there any that you want to see specifically? No, in fact, there is nothing about extracurricular activities that we take into account in our admission decision. I think I can safely say that. What are the qualities of people who are well suited for the health sciences or biomedical sciences program? So I'm going to speak from the experience. So I've been the associate dean for this program. This is my third year, but I've been engaged as the director for one of the majors since 2012. So since many of you were quite little. And from my experience, those students who are best suited for the program are those who are willing to learn and who really have chosen the program because they want to ask questions. They have a curiosity, not afraid to kind of try new things, even if it's not certain that they will be successful in those things, right? So you might undertake, that's why it's called research. You might undertake a project and things just don't work out. You don't get the data you thought you were going to get. The question you were asking, maybe your results are, contradict what you thought you were going to find. And those are not failures, that's science. And so students who are open to those kinds of experiences, quite successful in the program, open to learning about things like academic writing and presentations, really willing to work with others and learn from others, and have kind of like that motivation to learn, who don't just want to be here because they think it's a transaction to get them somewhere, and who just want to fast track the 4 years. That's usually students who will struggle and be frustrated and are not well suited to the program. So, if you're thinking about this program as just like a thing you have to do in order to get somewhere else, probably not the best match for you. But if you're actually like kind of excited about some of the things that we offer and the opportunities that are available and really want to engage in the next 4 years of your study in these areas, then definitely well suited for the program. So can a person with 80%? No. So we won't actually look at applicants unless they have at least an 87% average. And then we will consider them with their supplementary application score. So it is important that you meet that minimum requirement in order for us to consider you for an admission decision. So yeah, that does mean that you would not, if you have an average below 87%, you will not get an offer. Okay, how should we prepare for the course as a grade 12 to be successful? Well, I think my advice to you is enjoy being in grade 12. Prepare just by, doing your regular studies. I think if you meet our criteria, it means you're doing something well. So continue doing that. There isn't really anything you need to do to prepare, build, other than kind of the usual academic things that you would do to prepare for any university experience, like good study habits, learning, trying to start thinking about how do you learn best, but some of those things you will develop as an undergraduate student in any university program. But if you're really thinking ahead, thinking about a little bit around that, but I would say enjoy being in grade 12. If you come into any university experience open to learning and taking in the things that are being offered to you, and also be willing to do the work, you're going to be successful. So enjoy being in grade 12. You don't need to focus on necessarily preparing for anything. Get the grades you need to apply, good study habits, take care of yourself so that you can continue those good habits when you get to university, and find that adapt the new pace of learning that happens here. Jennifer, do you have any additional advice?
No, I really love your advice about just doing your best and enjoy your final year of high school.
Yes. I'm sorry that I can't answer how many seats will be filled because we haven't seen, we don't have those applications reviewed yet. So it all depends on how many are eligible. We do not have kind of like a quota of how many we must fill in that first round versus later. We kind of just take applicants as they're qualified. And for us, qualification means an average that considers you for admission, and then your supplementary score. We do not see grade 12 midterm grades. So we only see what goes on your, for example, if you're an Alberta student, an Alberta transcript, or a BC student, a BC transcript. So whatever is on your high school transcripts, that's what we see. So, if you apply early, and you should, the first round of transcripts we get will be your grade, more than likely, mostly grade 11 grades. I don't, for the most part, just speaking very generally. But then if you've applied early, then your transcripts, and you're from Alberta, your transcripts will come again after your fall semester is over and your grades are finalized through your high school. And then we'll get those transcripts, and those come into the system. So we don't see your midterm grades, and but that shouldn't deter you from applying early. So there's a really good question about if internships are provided, do you have to go and find them on your own, or do you receive support through the faculty? So we don't actually offer industry or outside or community-based internships in our program. That's not part of our program. Because we are research intensive, we really do focus on, like, our workplace is the research environment. So we focus on courses where you find in some courses, so some of the earlier courses, you have placements, research placements that are ready for students to select from. But for example, in your honors thesis, students go out and find their own honors thesis supervisor, define their honors thesis project, separately from, the course doesn't facilitate that, but then they bring that back to the course, and then we work with the student that way. So we do not offer formal internships, but our workplace learning is in the research environment. So if you're in the biomedical sciences, that might mean a wet lab. So, and a wet lab is what you typically think of a lab with, lab coats and pipettes and petri dishes, microscopes, cells, sometimes animal models. But for health and society students, the research environment can mean, sometimes it can mean an aspect of a wet lab, but it most often means working with community, working with research, doing, patient-oriented research, really working with people as your research participants. And in bioinformatics, it can be a mix of both wet lab and computational environments as well. So those are the kind of placements that we provide for our students. So there's a question here by Carlos. Thank you, Carlos. What do you look for in your supplementary application? So I'm just going to reiterate what we look for are authentic answers and responses that have been thoughtful and that, reflect who you are. It probably doesn't make sense to you right now because I don't know if you've seen the questions, but when you read the questions, this will make more sense to you in terms of like, oh, I see. They really do want me to respond in a way that reflects who I am as a person. So do not use AI. We can generally tell when that happens, unfortunately. I think it's best not to focus on what are they looking for in this question, because as I mentioned before, there isn't a specific, this is that answer that we're looking for. We have a set of criteria that we look for that we do not release, so please do not ask. But I'd say just focus on, read the question, think about it, write your response that feels the most natural to you. Okay, good question. And this might be one for you, Jennifer. How do we pick out our classes after we get accepted?
When students have been offered admission and accepted their offer of admission and paid their admission deposit, there is a common registration time, and you don't need to worry. We send loads of information out to our incoming new students. You will know exactly when you register and what you need to register for, and we offer assistance as required. So don't worry. If you're admitted to the program, all of that information is provided, and it will be very clear, and you will know exactly what to do and what to register for.
Okay, there's a question about if health sciences is useful for getting into graduate programs. Absolutely. Many of our students pursue a variety of different graduate programs. Some in pharmacology. We actually do offer 2 senior level undergraduate pharmacology courses for students who are interested potentially in that area, might want to explore it before making a decision going into graduate programs. But certainly pharmacology is one of those areas that you can pursue graduate studies post graduation. Okay. What kind of jobs a student might complete or might be eligible for? It's a really great question. So the way I think about the BHSC program is actually, it's unlike other more what we call terminal programs where, you go into accounting, you're going to be an accountant. You go into engineer, kind of what area you're going to go and you're going to engineer in that area. The BHSC program kind of opens doors. And so that focus on those critical thinking, collaboration, communication skills really makes you eligible for a number of different, a variety of different employment opportunities, I should say. Now, our alumni tend to pursue jobs and employment opportunities within the health sector. So that might mean, within the health and research sector. So some of them actually do go on to be research assistants for a while and work in labs or other research environments, as they're to further enhance their research skills. And those research skills, just make you so eligible for that. But I would say many of them also go on to do, different kinds of jobs within the health sector, working with data. Our bioinformatics students in particular really engage with, big data sets, and they're in quite high demand, actually. And health and society students will go on to work with, different community organizations, different research groups across campus. So it really is, there isn't a set kind of track in terms of employment. We do try to help students kind of frame around the skills that they're building so they can identify those areas where they are interested in and how to kind of apply the skills that they've earned through their research intensive program to this kind of plethora of possibilities that are out there. Jennifer?
Exactly. And I will note to all the participants in the meeting, it's already a little bit past 7 o'clock. So we have used up our time. I would invite any of you that still have questions to send them to the program at bhsc@ucalgary.ca and be happy to answer your questions. So I will put that email address in the chat. I'll trying to put it in the chat. Maybe
it's also on the slide.
Okay, it's on the slide. bhsc@ucalgary.ca. That's the website there, but you can find the email address on the website. So anyway, thank you for your participation in the meeting, and I hope a lot of you do decide to apply to the program.
Yeah, thank you everyone for being with us tonight, and enjoy the rest of your evening.